feeling today?
You know, I'm feeling wonderful, and I'm feeling excited. I'm still a little overwhelmed. I mean, there's so much I don't know, and the good news, we have spring break next week, so I can kind of get some alone time and get my thoughts together. But I'm excited. I'm just really excited.
Good. There's a couple things that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
And first, just to be timely and talk about what's happening today. Obviously, we can't ignore the 1 month anniversary of the Stoneman Douglas shooting. And a lot of schools inside the district planning some of these walkouts and things like of that nature today. So what's your thoughts, first of all, about kind of this rise in student activism that we're seeing?
So my thoughts around the rise of student activism, I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, our kids are amazing. And when you really think about this moment in time, you know, this event has forever changed who they are. They've been forced to grow up real fast. Today, there's all kind of, you know, I wouldn't call them walkouts. I think they're more like demonstrations and expressions of how they feel. Our principals are doing an amazing job of and teachers helping the kids get organized. They have all kind of events. Obviously, around 10 o'clock, you know, we'll start paying attention. We're here to support our kids and be there with them and help them navigate this. We definitely want our parents and our kids to understand, though, in truth, I don't want them walking the streets. You know, they're not safe in the streets. So, you know, the fact that our principals and leadership teams have really helped them organize things just does my heart good. We're going to pay close attention, though, and make sure everything's all right. But this has happened nationally. But these kids, man, you know, I just took my grandfather fishing this weekend, and he said, you know, Donald, I haven't seen it like this since your dad was, a kid in the 60s, in the 70s. And so it's a good time, but I'm looking forward to what the future holds for this generation.
Do you think you'll have to deal with any disciplinary issues coming out of today? Students who may try to walk off campus?
Well, you never know. I mean, they're still kids. Let's be really clear who they are. And, you know, as kids, I think a lot of them will participate and do exactly what is required of them. And there's always something going to happen. And we'll deal with those. I mean, we're still responsible for the safety and security of those buildings. But our hope is that we can redirect kids and they can participate in the way that we want them to.
Obviously, school safety really just coming first and foremost on everyone's mind. I'm sure much more than even a month ago when Dr. Bosa said he was going to be leaving and, you know, this process all started. So you're coming in certainly at a tough time. We've heard from him obviously previously about his stance on any type of guardianship program with arming school employees. Where do you stand on that?
So the good news is that it was on my mind prior to Parkland. I mean, in my current job as the chief operating officer, that's what we do. And I think, so where I stand is I don't want teachers having guns in schools. I just don't. Obviously, this is a conversation that the board has to have publicly. But personally, speaking on behalf of Donald Fennoy, and a parent who has students in Palm Beach County schools, I'd much rather have experts, people who are paid to do that work, be there with those firearms and that'll get the appropriate training and so on and so forth. I want my teachers to focus on teaching. That's it. And that's a hard enough job. As a former teacher, just focus on teaching.
Yeah. Because you have so much knowledge about the inner workings of, the schools and facilities, are there any immediate changes you see to school safety procedures?
So most of the real, what we would call target hardening, is actually the human element, how we monitor our hallways, protocols that sometimes we take for granted. Schools are very nurturing places. So making sure that you check IDs, you don't just open the door for people. And so much more procedural changes at first, kind of taking this moment in time to make sure that our faculty and staffs and principals understand we have a lot of things in place that we may have been a little lax around in the past that we can't afford it anymore. So I even tell my wife, walking our son to class every morning is not an option anymore. You got to drop him off and let the staff take care of those things. In terms of the actual facilities, thanks to the taxpayers, we passed a referendum, and a lot of security projects were already in the works. We have now decided to expedite many of them. And of course, we won't talk specifically about those, because they're part of the security measures. But rest assured, the board has given us clear direction, and we're moving forward with those projects.
Any initial training you mentioned, kind of reinforcing some procedures? Do you see any training seminars with staff members happening?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, we had already had some scheduled the day after, and so attendance picked up. People are actually paying attention a lot more. So we've already done a series of trainings for our principals. When we get to the summer, there'll be even more for staff. We're actually trying to maybe build in an extra day to bring people back early. We're still debating that and figuring out the cost to do just full-on training on all of the security measures so that teachers, staff, custodians, food service, everyone knows what to do in the event of an emergency.
And we talk a lot about single points of entry.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of schools are older
Yep.
and designed way before that was even a concern.
Yes, ma'am.
So what type of undertaking is it to try to make schools all conform to that?
Let's be real clear, it's a massive undertaking. However, we have an amazing facilities team. There are certain architectural designs that we've already begun to shift, and that work has been put in place, contracts have been bid, so that work has already begun. Obviously, when we build new schools, they won't be the typical Florida open model anymore. I think we're being very deliberate in the type of single point of entry, looking at all the gates and egresses. But part of the challenge is working in tandem with the fire marshal. There are just certain realities around fire safety that can leave doors open. And so we're really working through those things. The architects, the legislators, a lot of conversation around a lot of those pieces. But again, all of those jobs have been prioritized, and our chief of facilities, she's doing an amazing job making sure that work gets done.
Any type of ballpark of how long it could take? Are we talking 5 years, 10 years?
I don't want to say a definite time. I mean, we had a 10-year referendum project, but again, now that this is a priority for everyone, we can actually tease out some of those projects and make them a larger single project for vendors to do all at one time. So definitely, immediately you'll start to see some of that work happen. So let me be clear on that. So in certain schools, within the next couple of weeks, you're going to see certain projects. But a lot of it won't look like a security project. Some of it will look like it's a basic construction project. And that's, redesigning doors, putting certain types of locks in, camera systems, single point of entry. So all of those things are just happening rapid fire at this point.
As you come into a position like this, especially at this time,
Mm-hmm.
what is your number one priority?
So I think my number one priority is, again, with the reality of the current situation, is being very visible in the community. Dr. Vosa was a master of just being part of the community. And the community now has an expectation of that. And so I had a speaking engagement this morning down in Boca. So just being out and about, also a number one priority for me. And again, this is something that I actually missed. I want to talk to kids. I want to be around them. I want to be around principals. I want to be around teachers. Again, I was kind of in the shadows. I think I used the term, I was a known unknown. Like, people knew I was here, but they didn't know who I was and what I did. So now is an opportunity for me to share my story, share what I can bring to improving practices in schools. I have a lot of experience, a lot of know-how. I know people that can help as well. So just being out and just really leaning on the team of executives and others at central office to just make sure I'm in the right places at the right time. And then also it's a priority to spend time and get to know my board. Our board, again, I was the guy that just made things happen behind the scenes. The beautiful thing about operations, if it's going well, no one's paying attention to it.
No one knows.
Right, the air conditioner's blowing, everything's fine. As soon as it's not, then okay, where are those guys at? But no, I think it's a great opportunity for me to build relationships and to listen and see what the next phase of our great work here in Palm Beach County will be.
Any changes that you plan to put forward, sooner rather than later, things that maybe students or staff may notice in the classrooms in the schools?
No, our trajectory is clear for right now. There's no sense in coming in and upsetting the apple cart. We're getting ready for testing. We're winding down the school year. Yeah. And so that's our priority, ending the school year safely, making sure our kids have as normal a process and our teachers have as normal of experience so that we can get through the testing cycle. This summer, the leadership team and I will definitely have retreats and have some conversations. I want to see this part of it in action to see there may not be anything for me to change. I mean, obviously I have a different style and I'm a different person, but right now I am not trying to change anything. We're just going to keep moving and we're just going to keep moving.
And tell us about your style.
So my style, so a lot of people might assume that I'm kind of aggressive and dogged. I'm not. I'm very direct, I'll say that. But I think maybe in the last 2 years, maybe the district is lucky I had a daughter January 5th of 15. So it's made me a little softer.
Got a little daddy's girl?
Yeah, no, well, she's more than a little daddy's girl. She's a manipulator of her father.
Okay.
And so, but in terms of my working style, I've always been a collaborative person. I've always been very clear on reciprocity as it relates to treating people with respect and dignity. I've always typically run sort of a flattened organization. So yes, I'm the final decision maker, but I encourage and demand for the people that work on my team to always push my thinking. There has to be a healthy debate. The superintendent doesn't know all the answers. That's not, no one's an expert at everything, right? And so making sure that the people who are assigned to those positions, voices are heard. And let's be also clear, our bus drivers' voices need to be heard. Our food service workers' voices need to be heard. So I'm much more of inclined to get down wherever the people who actually execute on the work and spending time with them. I think that's one of the ways we were able to rapidly move transportation to a better place, because we wouldn't talk to the people that actually drive the bus. Many of us with the suits on were, sort of pontificating and having all these ideas. But the truth is, why don't you ask the people that do it? And so that's kind of more my style, rolling up my sleeves and making it happen and really working with the people.
And when you're working with the people, retaining teachers, things like that, how do you do that? How important is that to you?
Well, it's paramount. I mean, our core business is teaching kids, and the teachers make it happen. I was a teacher, I was a third grade teacher first. It almost killed me, I'll be honest. My hats go off to elementary school teachers. I was much more of a secondary person, sixth grade English. But, I think we need them. I need them as a superintendent. I need them as a parent. I need them because when I'm not with my children, they're the ones that are moving them along, creating their dreams, creating the next cycle of their lives. And so they're the most important element of our community, are our teachers. And so I'm absolutely there to support them and listen to them. And try to make their lives easier, because it is a hard job.
All right, before we run out of time, I'm just combining two questions.
Okay.
I have to address, you are the first African-American superintendent in the district, which is quite an accomplishment.
Okay.
So how you feel about that, and just anything else that you want the parents of the school district to know?
It's interesting. I was asked that question. So because Robert, I thought he was going to be here forever. So Palm Beach was never really on my radar. Yeah. I think as I thought about this summer preparing for my, first opportunity to compete for a superintendency, it just wasn't about Palm Beach. So when the opportunity presented, I hadn't studied that part. More was around, I knew people would question my academic abilities. And so that's what I was studying. So when it all came out the way it did, and I had that first interview, someone asked that question in the press conference, that was the first time I actually processed. I was like, oh, wow. So for me, I think it says this, at the end of the day, I did not get this job because I'm African American. I got this job in spite of that. So, whatever biases or stereotypes people have, in this moment in time, I think the board decided that I was the best person for the job. And I understand the weight of that for certain people. I understand the responsibility that I have. I think for all of the students, it says multiple things. I think for students that look like me, it's like, wow, there are things that we can do that maybe we had never seen before. I think for the older generation in Palm Beach County, it provides a certain level of hope and like, wow, we really have changed. And this young man received this, and not to mention African American, I'm also one of the youngest ever. So there's a lot of firsts there, and I understand the weight of all of it. I'm just thankful. It's interesting, across the country, people have been emailing me, and again, all races and backgrounds, like they're just so proud of me. I think what makes me feel the best is that I haven't met a person that doesn't want me to be successful. And so I lean on the shoulders of a lot of great people. Another thing that's fascinating, there's a lot of great women are supporting me in this effort. And I'm just thankful to, all of the groups of people that may have been marginalized or not considered. I just represent something different. And so, but at the end of the day, I just want to be a good human being. I want all my personal children, all the children that we serve, just to be good people and to judge people based on the merits of who they are as an individual, and not whatever classification we choose to put on them. So, even though I'm African American and a very proud African American male in particular, I think this moment in time just speaks for all people that Palm Beach is just a wonderful place, and it's a great place to live, and I'm happy that I get to raise my family here.